Those who are still entering, there'll be ample time to select a guest room, speak with others at the end of today's program. So I encourage everyone to come in, find a comfortable place to seat, to sit, and greet one another so that we can begin. A warm welcome to everyone. Everyone who's here, who would be no place else on this day like this. Please come in. If you haven't signed the guest book, please do that, but please do it at the end. You here, Bill? Right. Why don't we start with just a moment of tuning in to Bill's unique and wonderful and abundant energy. Bill's here. When we grieve, we do that by ourselves in the corridors of our own hearts. And that's what everyone here has been doing for these last few months. But we also do it together. And we need each other to do it together. Because one heart can break and sometimes even fall apart. But when hearts come together, we have infinite strength together. And we're here to remember Bill, and we're going to do that in many different ways, with many different angles. But it's impossible ever to recognize all the different parts of a human being, especially one as beautiful and who lived so beautifully as Bill. There were so many aspects of Bill's life, but in contemplating how to begin, I thought of him as the teacher that he was, the educator. And I thought of how he accomplished the three great learnings that we all must accomplish in life. The first is to become who we are. And we have no idea who that is when we begin. And we get all kinds of messages that are not who we are. They're who somebody else thinks we should be. And we make lots of wrong turns on our journey into the discovery of who we are and become who we've had the possibility of being all our lives. So when we think about Bill, I encourage us to think about how well he learned that first lesson of actualizing the potential to be Bill. And the second great learning is, as we learn that first one, we try to find ways to help other people learn that same first lesson, to become who they have the possibility of being with all of the aspects of their unique being actualized, and how well Bill did that. And the third part of our curriculum is how to let go, little by little, and then all at once. So when we hear about Bill tonight, we sing about Bill, we learn about Bill, we cry about Bill, we remember Bill. Let's think about how beautifully he learned those 3 lessons. And some of us will learn something about how to do that ourselves a little bit better, a little bit truer, by being with Bill in our hearts today as our teacher by example. So welcome, one and all.
Use the microphone, Al. You can't hear you. Oh. Yeah.
Well, like Jonathan said, my belief is that it's here in some, and I hope to represent like some of being coded for us for so many years. I'm still able to speak and my throat doesn't close up like it usually does. I want to say thank you so very much for being here, for everyone for coming, and being present here and in all the ways that everyone has shown their love and support for us. I'm incredibly grateful as I'm trying to negotiate in the sea of sorrow. It's like small things mean so much. I really appreciate them. I always say now, you know, I'm not a public speaker, but you know who was? Spell word, quick math, cultural references, and anything to do with sports or music of many kinds. Art history, local history, a statement both pithy and poignant and helpful. Together and committed for 24 years, engaged for something like 7. Flowers, because it was scary for me. Insurance, and someone to check each other for tips. When I first met Bill, it was in the little town of Hatfield. Our mutual friends Michael and Ruth had a Christmas party, the first and only one I remember. We had carpooled our children to the Waldorf School for years, and Bill had worked with Michael and they remained good friends and concert buddies. I brought my 8-year-old offspring to the party that night. I remember joyful chaos, and I felt more comfortable in the kitchen doing dishes, of course, as did Bill. I pointed out to him my rapidly running 8-year-old, thinking that would be enough to frighten him away, but he kept talking to me. Great Barrington. It took some time to reconnect after the party. In February, we met at Craig Place, now Local Burger. I thought it would be a quick lunch, but we talked for at least 3 hours. Later, we would consciously replay the moment we said goodbye that day. As I reached out and touched Norman's jacket, and somehow we knew. That's the thing about meeting someone when you have had history, right? You're both over 40, and there's some luggage and maybe baggage. School groups and camping trips and families and the rest. Honestly, the more we talked, the more it seemed too good to be true. Obviously, a yellow alert for me, mother of 2, and for him, father of 1. I was told of his cancer battle from other people I knew in Hatfield, and I secretly wondered then what kind of toll the cancer had taken years before. I had been considering myself unlovable, exploited, abused, and putting my offspring first, and I had lost faith and trust in ever having a partnership with anyone who could love me. It was a reinforcement of the primal adoption messaging for me that I was fundamentally young. When I first met his parents at Easter, they and his siblings were very welcoming and reminded me of my own family. His dad was a consummate friend raiser, most of his work life, and it certainly was a legacy that Bill also made his own. It was amazing being part of the family during the young at heart course in era. But slowly and intensely we worked and connected and did and kept going. There was not a minute to slow down. A no compromise, authentic team, and then we were all in. Quite simply, our togetherness filled us both in so many ways. When I first met him, he was the manager of the weekly newspaper in Great Berkshire Record. I remember the very heavy cowboy boot footfalls on the stairs, the very early mornings following layout day. He was sometimes so tired and still having trouble with the post-cancer treatment symptoms related to it. Our common dreams of helping, being in service, working with kids to help with social emotional learning, support for teachers, and making creativity available for all learning styles. And Bill went back for his master's. We both loved learning, and he loved learning. First, as classroom teacher, inspired by the wonder of first grade in the Northampton school system. I don't know her name, but I bet you. And later, after experiencing a teacher who literally yelled in the classroom next door and had a sign over the board, "Don't even think about it." I said, "If you want to change, you better do the change." And we did. He pulled together our family and would do anything, and did do anything for us. He would cook comfort foods, drive us places, listen, support us in every way. Becoming involved with the annual elections, I feel like that it's not hard. Son stayed as one of the party dads, and it's turned his mother ginger, beard and all. He was, however, not much for power tools and home improvements, but he did come to enjoy chainsawing and managing our trees. So proudly using the term wood flops. Bill did a lot of inner work. He used to say he saw or heard something amazing. It was difficult to tell from the outside whether he was horrified or completely absorbed. He would always say when he became very quiet, things would go either way. Usually it was being completely immersed by wonder and deep enjoyment. It was like that in one particular memorable concert that he made me go to. John crying at the Calvin. I had to pace myself with that, but I remember sitting there just like the magic was. I just couldn't take in all the performances he liked, so thank you to all his concert buddies. But I didn't have to go. We figured out how to balance our neuroatypical family as blended family, leaving room for difference, for connection, and for hopefully dignified support and help seeking. Bill identified being a consistent foundational rock for us. He said he was solid, he'd show up, but he was so much more than that. He was not just a sounding board. He developed a phrase the last few years, "Thank you for telling me how you feel," to receive negative commentary or criticism, and he meant it. He had a kind of awakening in July 2017. I asked him if I could talk about this, and he said yes. His idea to stop drinking alcohol, he recognized he was somehow not fully aware or alive or connected to himself. He did not relapse. He told me he never was tempted, although the first year was a little weird. He remained alcohol-free for nearly 9 years. He said he had to get my head right. He meditated more often. I could always tell when he meditated that day. He balanced the profound and mundane. We talked about concepts like grace and mercy and self-compassion. Maybe the Grim Reaper had difficult with hearing, I offered my life for Bill. Loudly and multiple times during those last weeks. You know, that's not really how it works. Years ago, I told Bill my expiration date felt like it was about 55. And for those of my crisis team who are here knowing that's and tick-borne illness. When I gently announced to Bill my thoughts, he took a beat and he said, "Well, I'm not opposed to it." He stated, like, that he wanted to live. Not for a moment, period. He has two cancer. 37 years without cancer, at least for without diagnosis is a creature fun. I cannot have a comedic timing with Bill and his father. I tend to uncomfortable truth telling. And that's not always funny. Bill not only accepted my style, but embraced and enjoyed my perspective. He said he liked watching sports with me because my commentary was often nothing to do with typical and disquieting, but somehow together. Bill and I created a profound and at the same time light dance of connection and love. If there is a way to continue love, that would be Bill's choice. Now, with online algorithms telling me about the residents of life and death apes, DNA had coding and life force and hidden messages. I wondered if three chords and the truth was actually how Bill resonated, like country music. Like many things post first cancer, adapting to being funny, relating to and convincing with life force and worshiping on the stage of music that comes within and brings together head and heart. I think simple can be the best. You know, though he was very very comfortable on stage, and as a frontman with the bands, as you will see, he was extremely humble. Except for the fun shirts. Despite my bottomless pit of sadness and loss this time, I am incredibly grateful for the light, connectable, incredibly intelligent, more wonderful, supportive being I could call Spanish. And I can't imagine a better partner. See him on the other side of me. As I said that day, see the face for me.
Use the microphone.
This was a song on Bill's computer. I don't know if he was proud of it or not. He never shared it with anyone. But it feels appropriate, and I would love some applause at the end.
One, two, three, four. Cross. The strange aspirations taken its toll. I think a lot about what we have lost. Conviction, contact, time spent with friends, just stopping at the cafe for a bite. These things are gone. Plans been taxed on me a while. Things alright. Lucky years post that I'm sure got a job on the line. I help my dogs out secure a house that supports us and vegetables and grains will come out of the right. This much I know. The projects I never had time to complete. The books I've been meaning to read. Time crosswords and new recipes, things been done at lightning speed. And time with the wife, well, it's been pretty sweet. Though I do need her hair time to time. Go back to working out 40 hours a week. Just gonna feel like a crime. But I'm lucky years old. That I'm sure got a job, my wife, my health, my dogs, I'm secure. A house that supports, say vegetables to grow. Come out all right, this much I know. Falling on the forward. The tides are ways and again. Avoid each other like my do you lucky your goals that I'm sure got a job while you have dollars on keep secure house that supports us vegetables to grow come out all this much I know come out all right this much I know.
Bill's son, and these are Bill's kids as well. But I've been told I got big shoes to fill. Luckily, we were the same size. Truthfully, though, I've always said I was been born lucky. Friday the 13th, it's my lucky number. But one thing I learned over the course of my life is that being able to look up to, learn from, and live with and be with my dad has truly been the most lucky I've ever been. He was someone I looked up to not only because I was only 5'7", but truly an amazing man, both at home, at school, at work. We all can kind of learn from him and look up to him. And the best thing I think I ever got to see was the way that he interacted with his grandson. Because I got to see him show that love that he showed me from a step back. And it filled my life with so much love. And I'm so happy that he got to meet Xander and be with him as much as he did. And I don't have a ton to say today, but I want to say thank you all for being here to celebrate this great man. I know we all appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So Paul Yandoli in the house? Paul?
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Davin, childhood friend of Bill's, also a member of his first band, the Bumsters. What to say about Billy? Boy, something struck me in throughout all our meetings, putting this together. I wish I remember who said it because I give them credit. Bill had a way about him that when he just made you comfortable. with him. I first met Bill in the fourth grade. Back for those of you who are educators, going to find this just revolting, but in the early 70s, the city of Northampton decided citywide to give all the kids a IQ test, and whoever was above whatever were put in academically talented class. And that's where I first met Billy. I know. You can't believe Billy was academically talented. But because we got together, we just became fast friends. And 5 years went by. Because he lived in another part of town, we didn't get together again. These two and Billy, the four of us just clicked. I think our common thread was our love of music. It started in the beginning with just going to local wherever to see whoever, whatever, to Billy saying, let's get in the car and drive to the Boston Garden and see Bruce Springsteen. That morphed into a lifelong friendship, really, from the four of us. And so one of the other things that happened is once we graduated high school, we all decided that we were going to just take off in the woods and go camping for a week, or what felt like a week. It led to a couple days. And even though we all loved music, we used to go everywhere and chase music, we never played music. So about 20 years into these forays out into the woods, Billy shows up with a guitar. Whoa, what's up with that? So the next year, Scott and I got together and we said, well, Billy can play the guitar. Maybe we can too. And so we're sitting around the campfire, we're strumming away. Jack goes into the truck of his car and pulls out a harmonica. He's like, wow, maybe there is something here. And without Billy and just the way he is, he found a bass player that he knew. He hired a local band, the Lonesome Brothers, who turned out to be very supportive, very good friends. And we learned about 6 songs, and we hired them for our 40th birthday party. And so God bless him for that. I just start thinking about what would my life be without Billy. It's certainly the friendship, the love of music. Anyways, this is a Lonesome Brothers song that Billy dearly loved to play. Down by the water where the big bear is standing, I met Paulina that night. While the family was singing, and singing to our heart. Down by the water with steel turbines humming, I helped bring the night. When the big shoulders open, the and turn down on the down to the water, top on that's how it falls there. When it's down, that's how the falls there.
applause sounds so loud. We should play here too. So my name is Scott. I'm Scott Delisle, and another one of the high school buddies and a bum steer. When I broke out as many of us didn't, broke out the cowboy shirts. I broke out the cowboy boots. Bill would always maintain that they're the most comfortable things to wear, and I gotta disagree with that one. Take my Vans anytime. Pardon me, I do need some notes here because I got some important points here to me. I need my glasses. I need my glasses because I'm older than I look. So, met Billy when we were sophomores in high school, as Jim said. And that year we had a lot of classes together. That was before they separated us. And there's this big guy in a red corduroy vest walking around telling all these really bad jokes. And it's like being in algebra class with Henny Young. But I said to Jack, "Hey, Jack, what's with this guy?" Jack says, "Oh, he's okay. We can hang out with him." So we did. We hung out with him and we never stopped. And Bill and I bonded quickly over music, as you might guess, but he made me sit and listen to Bruce Springsteen, really listen to it for the first time, and I dropped NRBQ on him. I was pleased to see a placard over there with NRBQ on it. And, we went to countless shows over the years, little hole-in-the-wall bands, seeing hole-in-the-wall bars, seeing bands nobody had ever heard of, on up to stadium shows with superstars. And there were trips to Austin to check out the music there, and there was that wonderful trip in 2024 to Miramar Beach in Florida. Thank you, Alice, for that one. Terrific trip with Bob and Billy and Jack and I. But as important as music was to Bill, and important as it was to our relationship, there was so much more to Bill, as you know, and there was so much more to our friendship. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. With Bill, we talked about sports, authors, books, movies. There were camping trips and hiking trips and minor league baseball games and hockey games and all sorts of adventures and misadventures. And some of those misadventures might have been brought on by following his directions. Some of you know more about that than others, but yeah, we'll talk about that later on when things loosen up a little bit. But I really feel like it's been mentioned earlier, but I feel like when Billy kind of turned around and went back to school and got his master's and became a teacher, that he had found his true calling as an educator, and in every sense of the word. And we talked a lot about that. We spent quite a bit of time talking about our careers, and as he moved on and became principal at Rowe Elementary, it was a big operation to run. And I similarly was running a big operation, an industrial operation. And in that, I'm a technical guy, and I was always concerned about nuts and bolts, and, efficiencies and yield losses, and labor costs, and DOT regulations, and on and on. And he helped me see that just as important as all that was the people behind it, having an engaged and happy staff. And remembering everybody's human and everybody has needs and everybody has problems at home that they got to work through, and they may not be their best every day, but you help them through it. He made me a better manager and a better leader. And his ability to maintain connections just amazed me. To make and maintain connections, and that's evidenced by people in this room, people from his childhood on up to folks from his golden years. And he worked hard at it. I know he did. I was lucky enough to, get a random text with a joke or a funny cartoon or a file for a song that, I just had to hear. There was suddenly a book would appear in the mail. Check out this author. I think you'll like him. He was very diligent about that, and I so appreciated that. And to think that I'll never get another one of those texts or another one of those books in the mail is really unthinkable at this point. So, my friend Bill, he was a father, son, brother, husband, educator, entertainer, musician, jokester, and my dear close friend of 50 years, and I miss it. I know that I know I'm child, dream, light on side, old house up and down, all time for faith and lecture, lies from our joy, painting and posters, rolling over the door. Just every worry, eyes are both on it. Leaving this ribbon, good, I'll take it. I was preferred. Every cowboy was look at real and black. That was a long time. Don't ask how I felt. It's just go by. And I took him to work is come home.
trying to push me off the stage here. For those of you expecting to see Scott Delisle up here, for the Babson reflection, I'm going to have to take his place. Scott did come out to the Babson, but he doesn't remember much about his business. So I'm going to stand in for the legend of Jack Who lives on. If you know it, you know. So I've got a few things to say on behalf of the Babson crew, but also, you know, I've spanned a lot of years, and so I'm going to say a couple other things. But first of all, there's really only one person that could inspire me to wear a Western shirt, these Looney Tunes socks, and in front of all you fine people, and that person's Bill Knittle. I had the pleasure of knowing Bill for over 50 years, making me one of the fortunate few who experienced much of Bill's life and experiences. And so I'm going to take a walk down memory lane. Now, those of you who know Bill know that he was not big on top 40 and ear candy and that kind of thing. He was cursed with artistic integrity. But with a little tongue in cheek, I'm going to take from a top 40 and do an eras tour of Bill. Apologies for the top 40 pop diva reference. Start with high school in his red vest era. As you heard, this is where the core group of friends formed, and our families became close. You heard about our camping trips. We ended up doing that over 40 years in a row. Nothing was more important. I remember Jim arguing with his wife about it, saying, Jim, you're not going. He said, yes, I am. And she said, no, you're not. And Jim said, we'll talk about it when I get back. But one of the things I always look forward to is around Christmas time. There were two things I always look forward to. One was Fred Knittle's Yule log, which was subtitled, It Could Be Verse. And then he always signed off with his notation of his poetic license number, which I always got a kick out of. And the other thing was Bill's mixtape. Bill would do a listing or record a bunch of songs that he either discovered, rediscovered that year. And even some of the artists, the touring artists, professional musicians that Bill came in contact with also with that. Babson was what I refer to as his party planner era. Another core group of friends, some of whom are here today, and roommates were kind of converged at that time. And I've been sort of blessed to be a part of. These are people that would stay together throughout the years. You know, when I talk about high school friends and getting together with them, people think that's odd, and college the same way. But we were fortunate enough to meet about a month before Bill's last diagnosis in Worcester for dinner. I thank Larry for organizing that and pushing it to make sure we did it. At college, Bill's philosophy was pretty much don't let classes get in the way of your education. And I don't know, maybe that was part of his self-actualization period for but yeah, he may got a C in accounting, but he could calculate the number of pegs required for the next dorm party down to the gnat's eyebrow, using a macroeconomic model that took into account things like the temperature, how good the Patriots were doing, and all sorts of things. And I'll tell you, he did a tremendous job with that. Western shirts were also a staple even back then. One of our more mature roommates was fond ripping open Bill's snap shirts. And so one day, Bill was prepared for this, and we're all sitting at lunch in the dorm, in the lunch in the commons, and Mark reaches over and rips open Bill's shirt, and underneath, in big block letters, it says "loser." And one of the unsuspecting roommates was there, happened to have a mouthful of vegetables at the time. And that poor guy snorted so hard that he passed a green bean through his nose. And that's not a lie. Senior year, we did a Friday cocktail hour and we invited one member of faculty and staff. We found out that this was quite sought after invite, turns out. We had the president of the college, we had the head of security, teachers, and they all contributed to our quote board we had in the hallway. But the point of bringing that up is just, the fact that Bill is all about relationships, building networks, and it was all about people. He was a driving force for that. The campouts I referred to as the I forgot my wallet era. I guess time and discretion prevents me from getting into too many of the stories, other than the one time that we somehow ended up at a Jellystone National Park, and in a midnight raid, we grabbed Yogi and hit him in the men's shower. But then there was family life in his Christopher era. Bill loved spending time with Chris. He loved being a dad, and he loved being a granddad to him. He talked all the time about one particular time early on when Chris was still a toddler. We were all meeting down at Cape Cod. Bill was the last one there, as usual, but traffic and whatnot caused him to be a little late. So he went through a drive-through and got dinner. And Christopher was really anxious to see the ocean, so we decided to walk down down to the ocean. And so Bill, being the consummate dad, takes Christopher and holds him over his back, upside down like this. Christopher didn't really buy those chicken McNuggets. He kind of rented them because they had Bill's shirt. My favorite memories. We did Austin trips. We went down our midlife crisis era. Was going down to Austin, Texas, to see music shows. We did 2 shows a night for 3 or 4 nights. My fondest memory of those, the night before we were coming back, we stopped at a place and we're loading up on some adult beverages, beers and stuff. And Bill shows up, and I'm paying. And Bill shows up with this bottle of whiskey. It's a local brand, so we should try it. So I go to pay. The bottle was $100. And this is at a time when $100. Right. So we get back and never ended up touching the whiskey. So next day we're at the airport. I'm going through customs or through security. And I look over and Bill's getting pulled aside. And sure enough, the TSA agent pulls my bottle of whiskey out of Bill's carry-on, takes it over to the employee lounge. So I supported their party that day. Alice and the Knittle clan era. This is when Bill found his person, for sure. It's the first person he wrote songs about. He loved time with her and spoke fondly about retirement. Alice, I want you to know we're all here for you. The love you two share was special. He loved Lucas and Ellie as his own as well. And I can tell that love was shared. The Bum Steers was part of his personal music era. We were referred to as Johnny Cash meets the Ramones in one write-up. He evolved that into other bands that pursued more classic country that he was into. But my favorite memory of that time was looking across the stage at Billy slinging the guitar with a smile as wide as Texas, knowing he was doing exactly what he wanted to be doing. So it's not hyperbole when I say that my life was exponentially better because of Bill. He was not just a friend, he was a brother. He expanded my intellectual, musical, social, and interpersonal horizons. He got me out of the mainstream music scene to experience the vast, amazing world of music that is not commercially successful, but in many ways much better. So this I want to direct to Billy. This was, I've got 1 year of retirement gone too soon. You have so much more to give. Enjoy every sandwich, indeed. I'm sure you're up there doing duets with Fred. We'll keep the music going down here. After 20 years, we should be getting it right soon. My last words to you were, it's okay to go now. We've got this. Your family has a tremendous support network, and they'll be okay. I think today is proof I wasn't lying. Say hi to Fred and Park Forest. Rest in peace, rest in power, and rest in the knowledge your legacy is secure. I love you.
You can tell we're together. Feels gone. Hi, we're Mary and Sonny Keller. We're representing the dinner group, and we're heartfelt because little involved. We have a visual aid. So, I know it's difficult for many of you. But I can say that for me, who would have thought meeting this 19-year-old summer intern at the dating clubs that said 25 years ago, who would have led to a lifelong friendship. I met Bill that number ago when I was an ad rep at the Getty Hampshire Gazette. And now, and I thought it was this was good. And I was barely 30 years old. So what did I? But I just thought it was young kid. And he was by my side for those years at the Gazette. We went to sitting together. We got a job there. I actually met Sony because of Bill Knittle. He was this person who loved enjoying your company, you have fun. And he persuaded me to go to a dinner theater show at the Mill Valley Club in Belford. And Sony happens to be going there as well. In fact, I mean, and I met Bill because of the, sorry, I got Sony because of Bill. Bill was very interesting. And then Sony, and just because of the way Bill was, they became great friends. Like, I was so funny with him, and all of them still became rather close. They did many things together. had this natural way of connecting with people and getting people to connect.
After almost a decade, Bill and Deb Levitt and their then spouses were talking about how sharing a meal with others can bring people together. They formed the idea for a dinner. In 1989, the four of them invited 6 other people: us, Kiki and Charlie, and their son, Kiki, Bill and Karen.
Many, many times.
Yeah, and Stephen. Kiki and Charlie. And Marty and Phil.
That's why I refuse to put up.
Right? All of us enjoyed a dinner together. That was the beginning of the dinner.
Okay. So the premise of the dinner group was to get together around a table and we do different couple of times, and we would all share a meal. The only rule was that you had to make something you had never made before. So whoever was hosting, they would find a theme, create a theme for the dinner group, and then assign side dishes and desserts to the rest of the people. The participants of the group shifted over time. A couple left, another couple came to join in, another couple came back after they left, and that's when Karen, your Shelburne, joined the group, and Rita Turcotte, Carla joined the group. We were faster. And then 25 years ago, Bill introduced Al. You can see the circle is being created.
The participants of the group, it's easy to get swept up in elaborate, sophisticated themes. Moved from Shakespeare plays, Julia Child's The Art of French Cooking, exploring international cuisines and making extremely complicated dishes. But then there was Bill and his themes. He brought a sparkle and a sense of humor to the table. Some of his themes included recipes in the back of box. Food your mom made. And of course, way out west, had to have a cowboy theme in there somewhere.
I think that was Alex reversal. So 37, it's been 37 years that we as a dinner group have done this. And what's happened is that this tight-knit group of people, of which many of them are here today, involved in these very deep friendship levels of support. We as a group experience Bill was a central thread throughout these shared life experience. He exemplified the true meaning of friendship. He was always there. He always came up, whether it was just a phone call, a visit, or sometimes just asking you how you're doing. To the point to really show how deep Bill felt around his friend, the valued friend, that last summer, sadly, our brother-in-law died. He lived in Baltimore, Maryland. And Bill and our brother-in-law Tucker was a Ravens fan, Bill was a Patriots fan, and many, many times there were Stoney and them had shared going to watch the game with the Patriots and the Ravens. Tucker died, had his memorial service in Baltimore. Bill got on a train, Amtrak train, took a ride
8 hours to come to Tuckerstown. Got back on that train that same day and came back home. That's true friend, true love, true support. And that was Bill.
Bill always believed gathering together is not about a beautifully set table or an elaborate meal. It's about creating a space to bring people together around a table. They're sharing food, friendship, love.
The dinner group is still here. We're going to continue the dinner group. Alice, Deb, Eric, Rita, and Jeff, Billy and I. We'll keep getting together. And we've all decided that there will always be a place and a seat at the table for Bill. So we want all of us to still remain together. And Bill will always be there in life. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rich Kaling. Bill and I started Wild Bill and the Flying Sparks together and played for many years. Had some great adventures playing everywhere. I think the first show was at the Shutesbury Athletic Club. We played Moose Halls. We played the Iron Horse. We recorded at Big Pink where Bob Dylan and the band recorded. We had some great adventures and we wrote songs. But the sweetest part of the whole thing was going to Joe O'Rourke's house where we had our rehearsal studio and Tuesday nights, I think it was, and just hanging out, having fun, and making fun of each other and making music. So we're going to sing one of Bill's songs. This is Nick Sims, who's been with the band since the beginning.
And yes, I am an original.
I'm gonna introduce everybody real quick here.
Okay, go do that.
John Altman. We had so many people go through Wild Bill, and then what became Wild Bill and Big Trouble. So John Altman on bass, Paul Yandoli, one of the original members, Mike Duffy, original member on pedal steel, Roger Avery from Big Trouble, and Hannah French, who Bill introduced us to. She teaches at Rowe, and became a good friend and musical buddy.
That would be Roger Avery. And I want to say I've only moved Bill for the 20 years of Wild Bill and the Flying Sparks and Wild Bill and Big Trouble. But it was all about the music. Except nobody's mentioned dogs. Bill loved dogs, even loved our nutty border terrier dog. So what can you say?
Bill turned us on to a lot of music that some of us were not so familiar with, and this is one John Hyatt song. Yeah, John.
Yeah, that's right.
Flowers that cry me still night. Of the flowers from the shotgun blast gathering. I got no back. Oh, and tell me that time. But
funny. We've been building this day for, I don't know, for so long. And it's always been this distant thing. And right now it's quite compact and it's quite powerful. And I just want to say a true thank you to all of you for being a part of Bill's life and a part of our life. If you don't have a program, I'm Bob. I am Bill's younger brother. And I wanted to keep this brief. Many of you have known Bill through education and music, and that's where I'm going to contain most of my reflections. Bill truly evolved through his life with Alice, and as his education career took over, Wild Bill was a creation we all grew to love. There are no words that truly ease the pain of losing someone you love. Thank you to everyone who has come to celebrate Bill's life and to surround Alice, Christopher, Ellie, Lucas, and Oscar with love. While nothing can take away the heartbreak, the care, and support shown by friends, family, colleagues, and this community. This is the beginning of learning how to move forward together. Elise and Quentin flew in from California. Mary and I are deeply humbled by the outreach we've received. Today, I'd like to share a couple of stories that help capture who Bill was, and not just the person many of you knew, but the brother I grew up with. The truth is, Bill did everything. He threw himself into life because he wanted to experience all of it. Every adventure, every passion, every challenge shaped the person he became. But all of the greatness many of you saw came with some difficult years growing up. Bill could be quite a challenge during his teenage years. And as his younger brother, he became my opportunity to learn patience, resilience, and how to survive. Many of you may also have known our parents who passed long ago. Dad was the life of the story, and Mom was the steady force behind the scenes, the rock who held everything together. Bill inherited much of Dad's spirit, the charisma, the storytelling, the presence that could fill a room or a stage. I probably carried more of Mom's quieter nature. I remember when we were hired as kids to rake or to shovel neighbors' driveways. Bill would somehow manage to do the absolute minimum amount of work and still expect equal pay. Meanwhile, I was out there making sure every leaf or each edge of the driveway was perfectly clean. We had to learn how to work together, or at least coexist. And when our frustrations with each other boiled over, Dad would take us over to the Clark School gym, where naturally there were boxing gloves and headgear waiting for us. As if I was ever going to win that battle, Bill could practically hold me at arm's length with one hand while I swung away. It was completely unfair. But music was another constant in our lives from the very beginning. Boots Randolph, Nancy Sinatra, Elise playing piano, Bill with his guitar, music filled our house. Listening to the songs from Mom and Dad's era grounded our family in a special way. Back then, Bill had his own record player, which was a pretty big deal. I didn't have one yet, so my musical education depended upon whatever Bill was listening to. Through him, I discovered bands that felt entirely different. Queen, Marshall Tucker, Allman Brothers, The Outlaws, and NRBQ, and some local favorites like the Cardiac Kids and the Stompers. As I started finding my own tastes, Bill introduced me to something even more important: live music. Eventually, he decided I was old enough to tag along, and those nights became unforgettable. Whether it was Flat Street in Brattleboro, the Rusty Nail, Sheehan's, Pearl Street, Iron Horse, the Springfield Civic Center, those concerts became places where life's worries faded away. And yes, despite the stories, we always had a designated driver who got us home safely or at least was designated to drive. Live music became one of the great connections of my life. Bill was the one who opened that door. There was one artist who changed everything for us. In the late 70s, I would sneak into Bill's room when he wasn't home and listen to these records over and over, imagining what these songs must have sounded like live. Then came the invitation. December 16, 1980, Boston Garden. You heard it earlier tonight. We went to Babson, spent time with Bill's incredible group of friends, maybe played a little Whale's Tales or sampled some Fog Cutter Punch. And then we headed into Boston to see Bruce Springsteen. Nothing I had ever experienced prepared me for that night. The energy, the emotion, the passion, and the connection were unlike anything I had ever seen. From that moment forward, Bill and I shared a bond around music, especially around Bruce, that lasted the next 46 years. Together, we probably saw Bruce another 15 times after that, but one night stood above the rest. In 2019, we went down to Asbury Park, just a road trip, Bill and I. We got tickets to see Southside Johnny. Bill and I took this road trip hoping to see this Jersey Shore band and explore the sites where Springsteen cut his teeth. We were standing about 10 rows from the stage. One of the pictures is up there at some point from the Stone Pony stage when suddenly they brought out a surprise guest, Bruce. There we were in the mecca of the Springsteen universe, watching him perform 7 songs alongside Southside Johnny. Bill and I could hardly believe our luck. We spent the rest of the night grinning like kids, so excited to tell our families about what we had witnessed together. In 2004, Bill left the newspaper world and entered education. And I was thrilled. Teaching had already been my life's passion and my life's work. And suddenly we shared this together. I started teaching in 1986, and over the years, Bill and I often talked about education, students, and what it means to truly teach. He became a teacher, a principal, and eventually a responsive classroom trainer. We spent countless hours discussing the ideas of Parker Palmer, especially his book, The Courage to Teach. Bill embraced the ideas that teaching is built on trust, humanity, and believing the best in people. Not only students, but colleagues and staff as well. He believed deeply in reaching students who carried trauma and struggles many people never saw. In education, especially in challenging environments, you quickly learn that not everyone walks into a classroom having their best day. Bill and I often spoke about the concept of unconditional positive regard. The idea that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and acceptance, regardless of circumstance or behavior. That's not always easy. Teachers know how hard that can be. But Bill truly lived that belief. Shortly after he passed, Mary and I were out visiting Alice at the house, and I was standing there looking on his bookshelf, and sure enough, right there in the middle of his bookshelf, the very book that emphasized unconditional positive regard, called Equity-Centered Trauma-Informed Teaching, right there on the shelf. It reminded me that Bill didn't just talk about passion and understanding. He practiced them every day of his life. Over the years, our relationship evolved from the frustrations and rivalries of brothers into a deep friendship built around shared passion, music, education, family, and the belief that people matter. Bill took his love of music, lyrics, stories, and connection, and turned it into the unforgettable person so many of you knew and loved. I feel incredibly fortunate to have been there from the beginning, through every stage of that journey. I'll leave you with one more story. In October of 2024, I retired after nearly 40 years of teaching. And Bill was so gracious to come out to my retirement gathering. After all of that time teaching, I had heard my last school bell, and Bill just wanted to share the time with me and my family. He asked if I would like to go to a Patriots game that winter, and I respectfully declined. Not that I didn't want to spend time with him. I just didn't find the atmosphere of a Patriots game. Remember, the 2 4-win seasons? So that's where we were. Something to spend time at. Well, as time went on, August 25, Bill retired in June, and we had decided to bring the Knittle clan together with our partners, so our sibling trip, and we took a cruise from Boston to the Canadian Maritimes. It was great. It was a time to chat, time to explore, time to enjoy each other. And Bill, he owed me a little money after this, so he said, "Tell you what, I'll cover the cost of the Patriots ticket. How about we go to a game?" This time I said yes. So this past December, we went to watch the Patriots lose to the Bills. However, they had jumped out to a 21-3 lead. We were high-fiving, celebrating. That whole first half was just awesome. The snow was flying, the wind was blowing. It was very cold, but we were enjoying time together. It was one of our last trips together. As he was explaining the crazy challenges he was experiencing and his concern with what might be going on. We went to breakfast March 2nd, came out here to Greenfield, and we had just an awesome, awesome breakfast, dude. He didn't eat anything because he couldn't eat at that time. But it's like, well, Bill, what's going on? He was just so excited because later this week he was going to get scanned. And again, that was March 2nd. My request to all of you in this room and to all you're connected with, think about those you love, those you want to share time with, those you wish to share a heartfelt moment. Don't wait. Make it happen. And share the good times and the bad times together. Otherwise, you may not know when you might lose that opportunity. I will miss Bill desperately. Come on. Every time I hear certain songs, every time I walk into a school or a classroom, every time I think about what it means to care for people well, I will think of you, Bill. You left us far too early. Rest in peace, brother. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara. I'm a teacher at Rose School. I'm saving paper, so I can read all this. But no words can ever express the depth of love and loss the Rowe Elementary School community feels for Bill, his family, and friends. We were incredibly sad to see him retire, but so grateful for the time and energy he gave us. We would not be who we are without him. His direction, support, and love of learning and teaching were inspirational and beyond compare, allowing us to create a unique educational experience not seen in any other public school around. Visitors to the school still comment they have never seen a school with such happy students and staff. Bill made it that way. I hope his vision for Rose School stays strong for years to come. He cultivated a community at Rose School, a place where teachers wanted to teach and students wanted to learn. Bill was an amazing boss and an even better friend. From our lighthearted jabs about our Sox-Yankees rivalry, to our common connections to Northampton, to our shared love of live music. In fact, the first place I ran into him outside of school was at the Green River Fest. While standing in line for a cold beverage, I looked over, and there was my boss, barefoot. It's perfect. This is the kind of man I wanted to work for. And he truly tried to understand us deadheads, close as he could get was his passion for Springsteen. But he would go so far to cover my class whenever tickets went on sale, and even sub for me at summer school so I could attend the Fare Thee Well concerts in Chicago. When I said the live music show was like going to church, he understood. Thanks, Bill. When I first officially met Bill, it was at a substitute teacher orientation. He was sitting on a table, wearing a t-shirt, sort of worn, a sweatshirt over that, a hat, shorts, and Converse, and chewing bubble gum. Obviously, this was an object lesson for what not to do as a substitute teacher. But luckily, I soon found out there's a magical place in the clouds, atop a mountain where rivers flow and rainbows appear. And after 20 years in the public school system, I finally got to use my first name as a means for students to address me. Thanks, Lori Pike, for being the trailblazer. He supported our activism for saving our small rural schools and our efforts to make the world a better place for all. Bill was my boss, but unlike most bosses, he was a father figure, a mentor, a big brother, and most importantly, he was a true friend. And I think we can all say that. He was a friend that sincerely cared about our mental and physical health, about our families, about our challenges and triumphs, our everyday ups and downs. And like a true friend, he was always there for us. Up at Rose School, it takes us a while to decide on things, and we will talk forever and try to get it just right. But I think this is what we're doing. We're going to build a buddy bench for the playground to ensure that all students and staff can feel included. If you don't know what a buddy bench is, it's a bench that you can come and sit on if you feel like you're left out. You are not involved, and somebody will come over and invite you to play with them. Hopefully on that bench it will read the William Knittle Memorial Buddy Bench, emblazoned with the Randy Newman lyric, "You've got a friend in me." We do have a friend. This banner that you see in front of me is some hearts in the style of Jim Dine, a 1960s pop artist. And students and staff at Rose School, one little thing they could do. But he was at Rose School for 14 years. So please imagine this banner replicated 14 more times. And it would reach the back of the balcony. And it would go on forever and ever. Oh, and Alice, I know Bill is here because I went to the bathroom and the toilet paper was almost out. So I made sure to replace it. So Patricia, and I also taught at Roe. And everything that has been said tonight says that the same person that came to Roe School is the person that you all know. Bill was always kind, gentle, genuinely interested in everything that you were doing. He was genuinely interested in children, and he brought with him his understanding of how important it is to integrate the social emotional into the academic learning. Children are little human beings, and our feelings, our emotions, everything we do is a moment of teaching and learning every day, all the time. I did a little book because I couldn't think of words. Examples of how Bill brought in the social emotional. He is one-on-one doing a math lesson here and wearing moose antlers as wide as his shoulders. And the child has a little one himself. Children looked at Bill with adoration, and I think you'll see in a lot of these pictures those looks. He, of course, brought his guitar, and that was part of our meetings and a lot of different activities that we did. Sometimes even while Bill would show up. Our picture. And
the kids were fascinated with him, his singing and his guitar playing. The last picture I want to comment on is that he also loved to do realize. And in this particular photograph, he is sitting comfortably in a big, nice couch, and he's reading Domitilla, which is Mexican Cinderella story. And in this story, the mother reminds the daughter to do every task with care and to always add a generous dash of love. And that was what Bill did. We will miss him so much. Um, so happy that he came to work on road. He loved the place, the setting, the people, and I do believe that his legacy of being a really good human being, present and loving and kind, will move on, live on. And now we have a song with Hannah, The Magic Penny.
Actually, just a little stage right here. There's any teachers or students, alumni from Rose School that want to come join us. We're now going to sing the Magic Penny. And the words to this song are on the little penny card that in your hands, because there's lots of them. If you don't have one now, you can get one after. And I think the fact that I don't quite sing this song the way it's meant to be sung melodically, Emily, is because Bill would always start this song like too high up, and then we'd go climbing into the octaves, and the melody would be a little wonky. So good. You don't even need the microphone support. Randy, so loud. Okay. Something when you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love. When you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like magic penny. It's like you won't have any. Let it stand within your house. All over the floor. When you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is when you give it away, you end up having more.
Well, some of what I got from all of that was that Bill knew what mattered and he knew what didn't. So, I'm going to ask us to say something together. I'm going to ask us to say together, thanks, Bill. But if you didn't call him Bill, don't say Bill. Say Billy, or Mr. Knittle, or Wild Bill, or Dad, or Sweetheart, or whatever you would call him. So on the downbeat, I'm going to ask you to please say with me, thanks, Bill, and then, now, fly free. Thanks, Bill. Now, fly to say that silently from our heart to His Spirit. Thank you, and bless you all.
So you all have lyrics to the song in your program.
Anybody need lyrics?
And we really hope you'll join in with us.
Yeah, one of the things that we all agreed on as a group putting this together is we could send Bill out with a song. We agonized over what to use the longest time. Scott, bless his heart, came up with this song. Billy Joe Shaver, Live Forever. We never personally performed it, but we could, when we heard it, we could hear Billy singing it. So join it. Cross there. It's fine. You're gonna walk just like I know. So you're gonna miss me well. Nobody but me. But just I just want to be happy. Something wasn't he's trying to your life. Don't let the heart is taken away. Feel just leave it to the light. When it's over, it's done, it's fine. It all from the sky.
So a rabbit hops into a restaurant and jumps onto the bar. The bartender says, "Hey, you lost, little buddy?" The rabbit says, "Nah, I really just want a beer." The bartender is, of course, amazed, and he says to the rabbit, "Hey, you can talk." To which the rabbit replies, "Yeah, and right now I'm saying I want a beer." Bartender says, "Of course, coming right up." The rabbit drinks his beer and leaves without any more conversation, but he comes back the next night. And the bartender says, "Are you ready for another beer, little buddy?" Rabbit says, "Sure, but tonight I'm hungry too. I'll take a pastrami sandwich. I brought enough money for both." The bartender, he can't believe it. He says, "Not only are you a rabbit that talks, but you drink beer, you eat pastrami, and you handle money. That is incredible." Again, while the bartender is waiting on another customer, the rabbit finishes and leaves, but comes back the next day. "Today, I'll have a beer, I'll have a pastrami sandwich, and pass me a set of those darts. I think I'd like to get a game going after I eat." And the bartender is again flabbergasted. "You eat, drink, handle money, and you play darts. That's amazing. Is there anything else that I should know about you?" And the rabbit says, "Well, I'm also a house painter, but I do that just to pay the bills." The bartender was so impressed. So the rabbit and the bartender settled into a routine, and eventually the rabbit becomes one of the regulars. And about a month later, the bartender found out that the circus was coming to town and was excited to share it with the rabbit. So when the rabbit came in for their nightly beer, sandwich, and game of darts, the bartender started right in. "Hey, rabbit, I heard the circus is coming to town, and they've got, bearded ladies, they got strong men, oddities of all kinds. You should check in with them. Maybe there's an opportunity for you." The rabbit said, "What? Are you nuts? The circus, what? It's going to be here for a couple of weeks, and then they move and they go from town to town. What would they need with a house painter?"